Well, dear listeners, we come to you with grave tidings. In our last episode, Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure, we sent out a call to arms, a desperate plea, a call into the void. Is there anybody out there?
Is there anybody?
Let us know, or we will stop recording the podcast.
But we're here today.
We asked for comments, we asked for emails, nothing. But you know what? Fuck all of you.
Fuck Sam Blazing.
We're going to finish this bitch. I don't care. Nobody's out there. We set out to watch all of these damn Disney Channel original movies as the podcast, a whole new pod.
That's right.
And me, Lucas Melby, I say I'm going to watch all these fucking movies. What say you?
Jacob Telejohn, I say I am dedicated. Got to finish our mission.
I periodically check in because we've been very clear. There are lots of other, well, I wouldn't say lots, but there were other podcasts that were doing the same thing as us. Since the last time I checked, there seems to be even more podcasts doing the same thing as us.
Really?
I just type in like Disney Channel.
Maybe we
Apple
inspired
Podcasts,
people.
And despite typing in something that I would hope would surface our podcast, it doesn't. I don't know if that's because I actually take us as explicit. Whatever the case is,
maybe.
Clearly a show called A Whole New Pod. We did not keep search engine optimization in mind while naming it. I blame my brother. He, I think, suggested the name. I was going to call it, like, It's a Small Pod after all.
Oh.
That definitely would have gotten us up there in the charts.
Oh my.
But I saw lots of new podcasts. But a lot of them were like kind of recent. It's like, oh, new, starting up, 4 episodes, drop off.
Wow.
Lots of things start and stop, but we are going strong in the 80s of DCOMs.
Yeah.
We have no soul left, but we're still going no matter whether some of these people had more ratings than we ever did. Rate us, review us on Apple Podcasts.
Please do.
We're not going down without a fight. We're at least getting to the first Zombies movie at the very least.
Yes.
We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of this podcast in a couple of months. That's depressing.
We need to make it full circle and get back to Under Wraps, the movie that started it all for us.
And Under Wraps 2 coming out later this year.
Oh, that's right.
But
Under Wraps 2, yes, but 3, really? But no, not really. But yes, really.
We can't know yet. We'll have to wait and watch.
We will.
But we're here. We're doing it. We're saying fuck Sam Blazing.
We're
saying fuck our fans. They don't exist. We're saying fuck the world. Unfortunately exists. And in this sense, we did say fuck Dustin. Because we did tease that we were maybe going to get Dustin on this episode. Phineas and Ferb Into the Second Dimension. I believe that's the name.
Yeah, yes.
I probably should have confirmed it.
Phineas and Ferb, the movie.
Oh, man.
Across the Second Dimension.
That's going to eat up all of the characters in my titling.
Across the Second Dimension, yes.
I guess I don't know. I feel like Dustin is a fan of the show, but he was out of town, and Dustin, such a fan, our only real fan, actually, didn't want the podcast to get delayed. So here Jacob and I are to do this episode. And I'm going to start out with a question prompt to Jacob. What's the deal with Phineas and Ferb? What's their fucking problem? We don't know.
We have no idea. We've never. We're both familiar with the show. Like, we know what Phineas and Ferb is. Like, we know that Perry's a platypus, right?
I know only, like, the most scant of details.
Yes, but beyond that.
If I was presented before watching this movie with Phineas and Ferb, the characters, I wouldn't know for sure which was which. I might have been able to guess correctly.
That I do know. I know Phineas is the one that talks more, and Ferb's like the guy that says one word of episode.
They have their platypus, who's a secret agent, secretly.
Yes.
And there's the evil scientist. And I knew that the show...
Doofenshmirtz.
Actually, I knew so little about the show until maybe recently, or I don't even know when I realized this. I thought this was like a Disney Junior show. Like, I thought this was for
really kids.
Real
little
kids.
Okay.
I didn't look at the exact production of this show, where if it aired on actual Disney Channel, because Toon Disney was also a thing for a while. But this probably would have been around the time, I think, when Toon Disney switched over into being Disney XD, which is a horrible name. Really dark. I don't know why they didn't just keep it Toon Disney, because they wanted to... Essentially, they didn't want to always have tunes on it.
Yes.
But I gotta say, not a fan of the look. of Phineas and Ferb.
We talked about the characters, like, just, I don't know, if Phineas is, like, Ferb has weird eyes, Phineas has a weird nose. Candace, played by
Ashley Tisdale
from our last episode, she has really, like, long, skinny legs and
they're purposely weird designs.
Yes, correct.
So I don't like the character designs at all, really.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, there's just something of Disney cartoons of this era, or even, like, of this 2-decade period.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the way the Proud Family movie really looked. I didn't really like the way the Kim Possible movie looked. So there's just something of, like, all of these shows are very, like, flat. I mean, they're obviously cartoons, but they're flat and, like, undetailed. And I think that was just kind of the style of Disney Channel cartoons at the time. And clearly it worked. Phineas and Ferb, Kim Possible, extremely popular.
Oh, yeah. Huge
shows. But I think I'm just maybe a little spoiled from the style of, like, anime, where I've watched a lot of anime, where they maybe were even... Anime generally is not, like, the most expensive compared to, like, American cartoons, or maybe it was cheaper, but it's just... There's attention to detail in other areas, or for later modern Western cartoons like Gravity Falls, which was a cartoon that started out on Disney Channel. Went to Disney XD.
Okay.
So I love Gravity Falls, but I just something about Phineas and Ferb, Kim Possible just
look goofy.
Don't sit right with me. As long
some
with,
of their jokes and references,
style.
some of their jokes and references, though, like we got a kick out of, that were maybe aimed towards an older crowd.
Yeah,
like this is just goofy, weird, funny.
Yeah, there was 100% jokes that kids would definitely not.
Yeah, they're way over their heads.
But I found myself laughing more genuinely at this than I don't think I really laughed at anything in the Kim Possible movie.
And speaking of Kim Possible, I think we'd kind of talked about that's probably like the last animated movie we've watched, and that's been a while now too since we've watched that one. So they kind of went like a long period of just musicals and music, and in between, we didn't know we were going to get music in this movie, but we did.
Yeah,
like 8 songs.
Maybe there's songs in all Phineas and Ferb episodes. We don't know.
We have no idea.
We also haven't really had a sports movie in a while, or like a dedicated sports movie.
The Big Game.
Yeah, we're falling behind on our big game counter.
Slacking.
But in an attempt to not fall behind on this episode being too long, let's get into our discussion of Phineas and Ferb, the movie, Into the Second Dimension, or I'll get the title right when I name the episode.
Across the Second Dimension.
Oh shit, I'm just completely wrong. So we start, excitingly, in media res. We're getting an immediate... What happened? How did we get here? We see Phineas, who of the brothers has more triangular head, red hair.
Yes.
Ferb, his brother, kind of is like the Ernie or Bert, which was the yellow one.
Bert. Ernie.
I think that's Bert.
Ernie had like the longer.
Really? Okay, so he's the Ernie,
right?
Of the brothers.
Fuck, I don't know.
And he has green hair, and he's generally quiet. Candace is their sister, we talked about, voiced by Ashley Tisdale. And then we also see the villain, as much of... He's not really... He's like a goofy villain.
Okay. Bert, yes, he has the Bert head.
Okay, Bert is the skinny.
Yes.
The villain of the normal series, Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. And we're seeing all of these characters walking in a straight line, chained together in some kind of fiery lair, moving towards a monster.
What's going on there? And the monster looks like either like a giant dog, it just looks like a giant hairy beast. Brown beast.
It's shoved into a square cage.
Correct.
And I can't remember if there was some narration from Phineas here, but we essentially get a cut to earlier that day, being like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
But it's one of those where it's very like self-aware of, you know, record scratch. I bet you're wondering how I got here.
And we've seen that in, I think we saw that in Quince. That was another one we've kind of had that.
Oh, it happens. I mean, that's why the term is called in media res. It's a thing, you know, it's
happens a lot.
Isn't Ferris Bueller's Day Off that kind of thing? Or
I don't remember.
That's just what I think of, but I don't know if that's accurate. Yeah. And then we get the start of their day with a very fun... This is maybe one of my favorite parts of the movie. We get a fun, jazzy opening song which we still weren't clued off here. Like, oh, there'll be a lot of songs. We were just like, maybe this is a one-off fun song
for the big movie. Yes,
I believe this one is called "Better with Perry." For all I knew, this could have been the theme song of the show.
Everything's Better with Perry, correct?
And it's basically Phineas and Ferb getting ready in the morning. And there's also some weird pops up in other songs, mostly in the songs where there's like stylistic parodies of other TV shows or movies or stuff. So they have some kind of like psychedelic color cutaways to, I don't know if it's like the Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family.
Yeah.
I think was what they were kind of referencing there.
A lot of references in there. I mean, even stuff that we didn't really pick up on, too.
Yeah,
I mean, throughout the
there's
whole
one
movie.
song that is essentially definitely a lot of references that children would not get if we are, close to a certain age that we have. Who knows what that age is?
We were fans. I mean, we enjoyed that song. That doesn't come up for a while, though.
And my notes, kind of rough, especially at this beginning. We're just getting kind of random character bits. I assume it's very similar to the show Phineas and Ferb. They're constructing some kind of
Shuttlecock,
which is, for the uninitiated, what the badminton birdie is officially called. But they're constructing like a Perry the Platypus.
They're constructing a platypult?
Which actually, I don't think we've actually talked about.
A platypus plus a catapult?
We haven't talked too much about Perry the Platypus, who is... Because he's not in the... Actually, he probably was in the beginning of the movie in that lineup. But they have a pet platypus who's secretly a secret agent, and you can tell when he's in his agent form.
He has a hat.
Because he has a hat and like a watch on.
Yes.
And part of the opening montage is him kind of having some like tech waking him up and giving him some readings and stuff. Phineas and Ferb do not know he is a secret agent.
Correct. Because he always just he stands on all fours and he just makes a weird like clicking noise.
I assume that's what platypuses make. Who knows?
Yes.
So Phineas and Ferb, I believe one of Phineas's lines is, "What are we going to do today, Ferb?" or some shit like that. I assume they make inventions all the time. Jacob correctly caught the pun that I did not, that it's a platypult.
Yes.
That is launching the birdie. Meanwhile, Perry is in the underground base, very Dexter's Lab, like underneath their house, getting the lowdown from his commander. And Candace, she's got some plot about trying to become an adult. I don't care.
Yeah, she's throwing away all her old kitty stuff, unicorns and stuff like that.
It's very B plot.
Because she wants to... some guy's going away to college or high school or something.
Yeah, we'll get into how us not knowing a lot about this show is extra bad for like this movie, because so much is kind of building off of your preconceptions about certain characters. Which not all movies from shows to movies are. Some of them treat you like you've never watched it before, which I prefer. I mean, this one definitely didn't. Most of them do kind of work off of you having seen the show. But this is the most like that. Yeah. And probably the opposite end is like the Jet Jackson movie, where that I found like functioned on its own in a way that like I assumed certain characters in it were actually from the show, and they weren't. They were just original to the movie.
Yes.
Anyways, all these, I don't know, you want to call them plot threads, these kind of all converge. Phineas and Ferb are inside of a kind of like a shuttle shaped like a shuttlecock. Yes. They get launched up by the catapult. Meanwhile, Perry gets launched out of his base
and
into a plane, hits the shuttlecock,
and it veers in a different direction towards Doofenshmirtz's
lab, or some tower, where at that moment he's working on some kind of contraption, and Phineas and Ferb crash into it.
And destroy it.
And as we quickly learn, because Jacob was like, do they not know who he is? They do not. So assumingly... they do not cross paths regularly in the TV show.
He is only a enemy of Perry.
Yes.
With the hat on platypus.
So this device is called the Other Dimensionator.
Yes.
And Phineas and Ferb, being smart, they offer to fix it for him. And they do, but are temporarily disrupted by Perry, the platypus, not in agent form, popping up. He like pees on Doofenshmirtz's couch, and that is supposed to distract them. But they do end up starting up the contraption, which creates a portal through to another dimension.
To another couch, they see.
That they see a couch in this other dimension. So Doofenshmirtz, let's just call him Dr. D.
Dr. D, I like that. There's a lot of D's in this other dimension.
He wants to just pop in and steal this couch. So they go through into this dimension, and they discover that this dimension is essentially a world where Dr. D has achieved all of his world-conquering, or at least tri-state area conquering goals, and has become an evil dictator.
I thought that was kind of funny, the tri-state area. He runs the tri-state area.
I'm sure that's a running gag in the show. But I thought this movie came out in 2011, so this is way before, I mean, it's not the first multi-dimension or multiverse
thing.
Yeah. But that is very much in vogue right now, of like all the Marvel stuff going towards multiverse. Everything everywhere.
Perry the Platypus started it all.
But also the thing that most reminds me of this is the most recent Ratchet and Clank game, Rift Apart, where it's almost the exact same premise, where there's a recurring villain in the series called Dr. Nefarious, who kind of a goofy guy, and he gets thwarted by Ratchet and Clank. But they go into a different dimension where he has conquered the universe, and he's like a big dictator.
Wow.
So it's like a lot like this, and the device that Dr. Nefarious creates that they eventually cross dimensions with is called the Dimensionator.
Wow. Weird.
So this movie has also some other stuff later on that was like Rick and Morty. There's iconography of this, of them crossing over into dimensions where the portals are like green squiggly or green circles, which is what the portals look like in Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
and the first Rick and Morty, I think, came out in like 2013.
So, who knows how much cultural impact this movie made?
Very influential, potentially.
Yeah.
Still not my favorite, but, I got to give props where it's due.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So they're in this other dimension. The Dr. D there is essentially a dictator, as I said.
Yeah.
Normal Dr. D encounters this other Dr. D. They're like, oh my gosh, you're me.
Do all these funny antics. He asks him, do you like butter brickle or whatever? He's like, oh, I hate that. Oh, do you like this? Oh, I love that. And they were doing, it was just a test.
And this is where we find out, there's going to be multiple songs in this.
Yeah.
Because we get a duo song or duet of the two Dr. Ds, basically singing about how they've encountered somebody who's going to become their best friend. And this is where we get lots of references to famous duos. We guessed Abbott and Costello, maybe Laurel and Hardy at one point.
Yeah, there were a lot of
Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, there were a lot of fun little duo things.
I'm trying to think of some other ones. Sherlock Holmes and Watson. So it's just a song montage, and it's cutting to them in these different ways as they're bonding. And it's, I love references. I love saying, hey, I know what that was. But it was fun. Afterwards, the second Dr. D reveals that
Cyborg.
His world, he had beaten Agent P.
Yeah.
So that's how he became, the dictator. Is he thwarted his arch enemy and had turned the Perry the Platypus in his universe into a cyborg, or I think he calls a
Platyborg.
Oh, Platyborg. I thought it was like Viborg. I'm not sure.
Platyborg. Platypus plus cyborg.
That's pretty bad. So then this cyborg sees, or they just see then that Phineas and Ferb are there, which I wasn't even sure if they had crossed over because they weren't like involved in any of the song montage.
And Perry's with them now, and this is where the other dimension Doofenshmirtz is like, oh, that's him right there. That's bad. But like the normal dimension Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, we can call him normal Dr. D and other Dr. D or evil Dr. D.
So he has no idea. So then when he puts the cap on,
it's a funny bit where he's like, no, that's just a normal platypus. And then he puts his hat on. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was kind of joking earlier that he's like, shouldn't he just assume that if there's any platypus in his presence, that it probably would be Perry? But
that's what the other Dr. D, that's like I said, that's how he was able to conquer him. He could make that distinction between the two.
And if this isn't just revealed to Dr. D, it's also revealed to Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, they had no idea
for
yet
the
either.
first time ever.
And they're kind of mad about it.
Or at least
they're upset.
Phineas is, for sure.
Yeah.
So Perry takes the boys and makes a dramatic parachute escape to get away from Dr. D.
The parachute has his face on it, so he's like a James Bond figure.
And Phineas is very angry, as Jacob was saying, about his lie. And I wanted to pull up the most... Well, apparently I think it was said like 3 out of 3 people found it was helpful, but a very long trivia comment. Not a ton of trivia on IMDb about this, but this one was very funny, I found. So if there's anything that's grammatically incorrect with what I'm reading, that is just how it is written. And this is one of the rare moments when Phineas has a very angry moment with a loved one, in parentheses, Perry's secret being revealed. This also occurs in other episodes. In Summer Belongs to You, with just a mere minute left before sundown, Candace is refusing to ride a tricycle, but Phineas gets really upset as everything is short on time, yelling, "Get on the trike!" So that's one other time he got mad, apparently.
Oh my.
In Mission Marvel, twice, when Candace accidentally messes up the hero's powers and hulkifies Baljeet. Sure. Phineas has a long, angry line at Candace and tears up her shed card, putting Candace in a deep funk. But later on, Phineas apologizes and has her shed card fixed.
So he has anger issues.
In Save Summer, just as the Earth is being pulled away from the sun, Candace turns the thruster level up to red, and Phineas warns her not to. Buford also breaks the fourth wall and says this must be a special episode. He's yelling at his sister again.
Oh my god.
This unusual anger is apparent to other Disney characters, like Mickey.
What?
Mickey never gets angry.
What?
Cat Noir from Miraculous Ladybug, Cat Blanc, Senta Bubbler, etc. I don't think Miraculous Ladybug is technically a Disney show. Della Duck, DuckTales, Typhoon,
They all
and Bo
reference
Peep,
it?
Toy Story 4 are all characters that are not supposed to be angry, and if they get angry, it's a significant.
Oh my god.
So just a giant paragraph of text to say that Phineas doesn't normally get angry.
What a fan that is. My lord.
I had remembered reading that and then watching this movie, and I just assumed, oh, Ferb must be the one who is surprisingly angry. But it's like, no, it's Phineas who, it's like, I don't know. So also some of those titles of that episode is all about summer.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the show is just them always like during a summer vacation.
Because they do reference in this movie that there is no summer. They got rid of summer. Doofenshmirtz in his other dimension got rid of
But we're getting
summer.
ahead of ourselves.
Yes.
Remember, they are making a parachute escape.
Yes.
And he's yelling at Perry.
Cyborg Perry comes down and like cuts the parachute down. And they crash into the side of the building.
And then there's some other like
weird fight.
Patrolling robots around.
Oh,
so it's a combination of him fighting the cyborg.
That have like a weird head that pops up. Like
well, they have helmets on, but if you lift up the helmet, it's like a dorky face that talks about muffins or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
So Cyborg Perry and other Perry are fighting, and the normal Perry has like a weird skeleton stuck to his feet.
Yeah, he encountered a skull in Dr. D's lab that he used part of the escape. Whatever. Getting beyond that, they
fight. They get the other cyborg guy wrapped up in the parachute. Yeah. And they like push him off.
I don't exactly know the escape. I have a note saying something about they're running through the city. They have a dimension remote.
Yes.
Which I guess is part of the device that they created, but they have it with them. But then they use it and they see that the dimension isn't their dimension, so they don't go through it. But this is where I'm like, oh, that's some straight up Rick and Morty shit right here. But it's again still before Rick and Morty.
Some point around here is when we get the backstory, right, of why Doofenshmirtz is mad he lost his train. I don't know if you wrote down at all.
Yeah, I think that might be coming up. But that's some bonding or questioning between the two doctors of being like, well, what's your crazy origin story? And it's a kind of subversion where the doctor in this bad universe or alternate universe
just lost his train.
He's like, and I was little and I loved trains and I had a toy train. And then I lost.
And he's like, that's it? That's all that happened to you?
Hangs there, and that's it. And it's kind of fun.
And then the normal Dr. D goes into why, and his is much more tragic, but yet he hasn't accomplished anything as much as this other one has.
And also, we can differentiate between the two doctors because the one in the alternate dimension has
facial hair.
Well, and an eye patch.
Oh, yes, eye patch that has the
scar goes over the eye patch.
Yes, and he did have the eye patch as a child as well, without the scar on it.
Yeah. We cut back to normal dimension. Candace, I think her main character trope in the show is she's always trying to bust her brothers.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
Discover what they're doing.
Her talking about, I'm busting here.
Oh, my.
I don't know. The connotations have maybe changed in the last decade.
Bussin'.
But she's looking for Phineas and Ferb, and she's not finding them because they're in a different dimension. It's very boring, and I don't care. I thought there was some fun visual bits we get in the alternate dimension. All of the buildings either have just D's or
everywhere.
DOOF. So sometimes it just looks like a lot of D's because it's D's and O's, and it's kind of hard to differentiate it. Phineas and Ferb also run into their alternate universe father, who has to go to work at the evil factory or whatever, and he just has like a harness on his body that he just throws up and gets latched onto a speeding bus that just picks him up. And
that was pretty funny. Pretty scary.
Yeah, dystopian and fun. And they run into then their mom and also their other alternate version selves who are playing Doofopoly or something like that.
Yeah,
and
Doofopoly.
jokes about like, oh, you didn't conform hard enough, and just kind of like 1984 style dystopia.
Then when they meet the normal ones, they're like, we conform, and they're like really freaking out. And other Candace is there, but she really doesn't care about the other dimension. She's like, now there's 4 of you, and she just walks out of the room.
She's got other stuff going on, we learned.
Yeah, she's not like their normal Candace.
As Jacob talked about a little bit ago, they bring up Summer, and they say, oh, we don't have Summer. So then normal Phineas and Ferb sing them a song about Summer.
Yes, another song.
And this is also pre-Frozen, where in Frozen, Olaf's song is about how he can't wait to be around in summer. So this also predates Frozen about singing about summer.
So this is Summer, in parentheses, where do we begin? Song 4 of 8.
Set up Frozen, set up the Marvel multiverse.
Yeah.
This was just the
influential
roadmap for all of
like
Disney's
I said, it had
next
100% ratings, and people talked about how it's just new age ideas, man.
I do believe for kids at the time, or fans of the genre of Phineas and Ferb, this was a big deal, this movie.
Absolutely.
The summer song, it was kind of fun. I don't like it so much when Phineas and Ferb sing because I don't like their voices.
The voices are weird. Like you said, it reminded you a lot of Weird Al.
Which I love Weird Al,
yes.
But Weird Al is very distinctive and very good. Inventive visuals going on again in these songs where it's just a big montage and they're eating ice cream, drinking cherry soda, and, summer stuff, right?
Yes.
Vote for Summer. Perry, there's some more kind of forced drama between him and Phineas where Perry's trying to sneak out. Because I think there's a message on the TV of Dr. D being
correct. He's like,
if you turn yourself in,
I won't hurt the boys.
So then he's trying to sneak out, but then Phineas catches him.
He's like, hey, man, we know you're in secret, man. You don't got to sneak. Just go. Just leave.
You don't need to sneak out, but I'm going to tell you to get out.
Yeah.
And then he gets out, and there's like a sad song playing, and it's raining, and it's to be like...
Angry Phineas is what they have him labeled. Angry Phineas.
Harry and the Hendersons being like, go on, get out of here. We don't want you.
Yeah.
So he gets...
or Sad Perry.
Yeah, he gets picked up and brought to Dr. D's main base or whatever. And they... a lot of this movie, if it's not clear, it'll become more of a focus, is about seeing these alternate versions of these characters.
Correct.
Because we're going to get into like an underground rebel base where there's a bunch of alternate versions of characters.
Yeah.
But for Jacob and I, we don't know the original characters, so this is just kind of like, okay, more bullshit happening.
Yeah, their sister was down there. Phineas's love interest is down there. Is it Isabella, I think?
Yeah.
There's this like bully guy who's down there with them.
And that's something with like the most recent Ratchet and Clank game, like the Ratchet in the alternate universe is a girl Lombax named Rivet. And it's like, well, that's fun. Yeah. Because I know Ratchet and Clank and I love those games. But they don't do anything that wild here. It's like I guess as wild as changing somebody's gender or whatever. But they're all like the same gender and it's just like slightly different. But sometimes they're not even that different. So they find out... I can't remember. Let me look at my notes. They just eventually encounter this underground rebel base. And there's all these characters I don't know the names of. And they either discover... or just assume that Perry's been... Oh, they do, I think, see, maybe on the TV again, that Perry's been captured. So they're trying to enlist the help of these
rebels,
people.
Rebel Nation.
One of these alternate friends also explains kind of the multiple dimensions setup, where the reason they're not able to use the remote to cross back to their dimension is because the dimensions are set up like a circle, and they move through the circle clockwise,
yes.
And to go counterclockwise would require a lot of energy, which doesn't really
who knows
come into play too much. But it's a neat way to justify how
them having to go through different worlds and stuff. Yeah,
they have a brief test where they are working with the dimension remote or something, and it brings normal Candace over.
Yes,
cool.
Yeah,
I really needed that to happen.
So she meets her other dimension. And she's all like. Hey, is
Candace
Jeremy
is a
Johnson
part of this, like,
here?
underground guerrilla force, and she's a badass in this universe. Kind of like the leader of this team. The reason this is like so much of a mess right now is because we weren't paying that close of attention. I think I went to the bathroom somewhere in here. Yeah. They take some kind of tram to the base of Dr. D.
Yeah.
They just get inside, and then they get captured because it was a trap by Dr. D.
Yes.
But they somehow escape. We don't know exactly how, because we were talking about the recent Disney Plus release of Pinocchio.
So it was something to do with like that weird hairy beast that was in the cage.
No, that hasn't happened.
Oh, not yet. Oh,
No.
Who knows? Whatever.
Because then I think they even get like Perry to come with them here.
Yeah.
But then the robots catch up to them as they're taking this train out of there, and the alternate universe characters break off part of the train to leave the normal universe characters behind.
Oh, God.
So all
Are
of
you
them
keeping
get
up?
captured. You clear? I'm sure you're not.
So, yes, they escape back through the mine carts. Through
And
a
then
tunnel.
eviler
Plattyborg.
Doofenshmirtz
Oh, Doofenshmirtz.
is trying to get Phineas and Ferb to fix his Dimensionator, but they are refusing. But then normal Dr. D just fixes it.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to kill Perry, Agent P. I'm going to kill Phineas and Ferb and Candace. And then Dr. D somehow says the same thing as him. He's like, Jinx, you owe me 3 sodas because he'd been jinxing him before. So then evil Dr. D's like, oh, and you know what? Fuck it. I'll kill you.
Kill you too, yeah.
Which is a funny bit.
He's really mean.
So that's when we wrap back around to the beginning scene of all those characters.
This is how we got
So
here.
we're like, why are all these characters here, especially Dr. D and Agent Perry or whatever? And they're being led into this big monster's lair.
Yeah.
And this was a fairly well done action sequence where they see a nearby robot who has keys on it. Agent P uses a magnet on his watch to steal the keys.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of shenanigans happening where they're all chained in a line together. They're falling off of the bridge, so they're
Into
all
lava.
hanging there. The keys are kind of, I don't know, flying around. I'm not doing a great job of describing this.
I'm
the monster gets out of the cage, but the monster...
It's just a square-looking, weird, brown, hairy thing.
It does. I feel like I'm like a kid, and then the monster gets out of the cage, but the cage was a square, so the monster's a square.
The monster was a square.
And then it's like, oh, they're fucked because there's a bunch of other robots coming in.
But they have the portal gun.
But then other universe Candace comes back to rescue them.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really, because she comes swinging in literally. Knocks away some robots, but ultimately they just use the portal gun.
Yes, they use the portal gun and they fall through the portal, and the monster chases them. But because the portal is shaped like a circle, the monster goes through and it just turns into like just its head comes
out.
A
cylindrical monster.
A cylindrical monster. So it's basically just useless. So
it was a fun sequence, but me trying to describe it or try to watch it and take notes is a mess. But
yeah, it was happening very fast. There was a lot of stuff going on.
I don't really know how it leaves other universe Candace because she just gets left behind.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
But then all the characters who were chained together, they're hopping a bunch of dimensions because there's also robots coming through the portals.
There's a lot of giants. We see a lot of weird shapes and stuff.
So this
colors.
had more fun and more well done multiverse jumping than freaking Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Preach.
And very much Rick and Morty, just they're hopping into. And it gets pretty trippy like Rick and Morty with some of the universes they're going into.
Yeah.
Because this is another kind of song montage and there's lots of quick cuts. And eventually they go through so many different dimensions that they wrap back around into their original home dimension.
Yes, correct.
So that was fun. I liked that. And that was the last thing I liked. No, I'm just kidding.
The end.
Back in the original dimension. But remember, normal Dr. D fixed evil Dr. D's machine, so he's able to enter in the alternate dimension, which he really only wants to go to because he wants another tri-state area to conquer, because he had conquered his own tri-state area, I believe.
Okay.
So he starts sending in a bunch of robots into that universe.
Yeah.
Dr. P. Dr. Pibb. Mr. Pibb. Agent P jumps into action. And him and his commander are like, well, I shouldn't say he tells the boys to go back to their home because he can't talk.
Yeah.
But he gives the boys his collar to be like, hey, I'm not your pet anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get them to go back home.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad. But actually, it was a ploy to get them home because the collar reacts to how to get into the lower base. So the kids, Phineas and Ferb, go into the lower base, activate the supercomputer, and are able to design all these crazy robots and shit. And that was Agent P's plan. You got it?
Yep. Keeping up.
I'm feeling our rigorous attention to detail is failing in this episode.
Nuts.
So
Like,
there's chaos kind of occurring.
Yeah,
it's very much like, I think,
it is very
the
chaotic.
Impossible movie.
There's a lot
where
of shit just
robots going in the
robots.
city. There's a fun bit where we see a lot of... Also, coincidentally, the climax of the movie, this is where Jacob started to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Which, in his defense, I'm also kind of tired. I haven't been sleeping the best this week, but this week we had gone from in Minnesota earlier in the week to a real field day of like 100 degrees to now it's like 50 degrees and rainy. So it's very much like a you want to stay in bed and sleep kind of day. But hey, we got Phineas and Ferb to watch.
We power through.
So unlike other times where Jacob pays extremely close attention to the movie and can definitely fill me in on all of the details, he might be a little out of it in this section. But there was a fun bit where I felt like I maybe was sleeping because I look up and there's all of these animals fighting the robots and I'm like, what the fuck is this? But all the animals are wearing hats, so whether this is established in the show or not, there's other animals that are agents.
When they're in the house earlier, when Perry's going down to shoot to go to the other lab, there was also like a little chihuahua or something with them, which might have been another pet. So then we
I feel like it must be established in the show, but something about it just made me be like, oh, I kind of like the idea that it's just
Perry.
Agent P.
Yeah.
Like, they have normal secret agents that are humans, but they have one that's a platypus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that funnier.
Yeah.
But Agent P's fighting with these other agent animals, but they're kind of failing. But then Phineas and Ferb ride in on a couple of different robot animals.
Yeah.
And they kind of send out robot suits and different robots to all the different characters. So then there's a big montage. There's also some band that I think must be from the show itself.
Okay.
Kind of like the Chip Skylark of
wow.
Phineas and Ferb, maybe. They're playing the song to provide an accompaniment, and Phineas asks them to do it. So an in-universe kind of joke about, like, give us some fighting music. So they're playing the song, and everybody else is, in the words of Candace, I laughed at this point, momentarily waking Jacob up, says, now this is what I call busting.
I wonder if one of the guys in the band was Mitchell Musso, because he's in here as Jeremy Johnson.
No, I think that's Candace's boyfriend.
Yes, but is there a point where we actually see him?
There's 2 points.
He's mentioned, I remember. I just don't remember.
At the very beginning of the movie, Candace talks to him on the phone.
Okay.
And then we see him like twice in the alternate dimension.
Gotcha.
So shout out to my boy Mitchell Musso, star of Hashing Pete.
Yeah.
Playing the character Cletus. One of the best DCOM characters.
Hannah Montana. He was Oliver.
Yeah, no shit.
Oliver Oaken.
Yes. No, everybody's going to talk about Cletus before Hannah Montana. Jeremy
Johnson.
This is where I made sure to note in my notes that Jacob is sleeping during the movie's climax. Phineas and Perry, they get up to where evil Dr. D is, where he crosses over to their universe at the tower where Dr. D normally lives.
Okay.
Meanwhile, normal Dr. D is having some funny bits of trying to buzz into his apartment building because he doesn't have his key. But his old lady neighbor doesn't remember who he is, so she won't buzz him in. And that was some good stuff. But evil Dr. D, he's on top of there. He has this satellite dish that's controlling all of the robots.
Yeah.
So then they start to fight him. Phineas fights Dr. D, and then Agent P has to deal with the cyborg.
Gotcha.
And there's some goofiness with these fights. It's not my style.
So Perry...
Strictly not goofy.
Perry defeats the Platyborg?
Not even like immediately. It's kind of drawn out.
Oh, God.
And there's a point where Ferb is fighting with everybody else, and some girl's like, go on, Ferb, go help them. So in my notes, I just filled in, and then Ferb helps them fight. But he really doesn't. They, like, beat them, and then Ferb, like, gets up to them.
Yeah, he's kind of I mean, that's just kind of how he is in the show. He's just kind of there.
He's also British.
Yeah, he's got a weird accent.
He talks, he's British or Australian.
The dad had a weird accent, though, too.
Okay. Yeah, the two Perrys are fighting, and they eventually destroy the satellite, so that affects all of the robots. So the robots aren't fighting anymore.
Perry kills the other.
But then Dr. D,
cyborg.
he electrocutes him while he has like a turkey on his butt, and he's holding 2 corn cobs, so he's launching popcorn.
What? Oh my
See, Jacob,
God.
this is what you miss when you're sleeping.
Oh.
So all of the other robots are defeated, but then Dr. D pops up in a giant robot and says, hey, I had one trick up my sleeve, and the robot looks like himself, and he pops up of the robot's sleeve. And he's like,
God.
Get it?
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Jeez.
See, Jacob
Jeez
missed
Louise.
all of this.
Oh, no.
But this is all solved because normal Dr. D retrieves his own train, because he didn't lose the train that Dr. D did.
So he gives it to him.
He gives him the train, and then it's all solved.
Wow.
His evil origin is fixed, and he doesn't want to invade anymore.
He was just a nice guy because he got his train back.
So he is like, yep, all right, cool. They open up the portal. All the different versions of the characters are getting like closure with their alternate universe versions. Candace tells like her other Candace, be like, well, now you can live for boys instead of overthrowing dictators. So that's cool, I guess.
Wow.
But Perry's commander pops up and says that he will now have to take Perry away from them in 15 minutes because his secret identity has been divulged. But there's a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. And we kind of, Jacob waking up from his sleep
Men in
finally.
Black. They can Men in Black and
Jacob popped up and was like, I wonder how many episodes after the movie there was of the show. I'm like, what? And it was like, well, is this one of those things where it's kind of its own movie that separates out from the show and doesn't really influence it, kind of like an anime movie of a big series? Is this the series finale kind of movie like we got for like the Proud Family?
Yeah.
Well, we get a way for it to exist within the show and not upset the rest of the show because Dr. Dimensionator,
they Men in Black him.
Dr. D created something called the Amnesiator.
Yeah.
And
look at the light.
Funny bit, they're saying, oh, we could use this. And Dr. D's like, I don't remember making that. I should remember making something like that. So there's some good jokes in the movie.
There were, yeah.
So they gather up all of the characters because they were like, we don't want to lose our pet Perry. We've had a great day.
Yes.
But it's not worth remembering this day if we lose our pet.
Yeah.
So they make up. Well, they don't make up. They have a nice touching moment with Perry before they're going to get wiped. And Jacob had called out, oh, I think this girl is like the love interest of Phineas.
Kisses him.
Because she's like, hell, he won't remember anything, right? So she kisses him, which is weird because Phineas's head is not shaped in a way where it makes sense for him to kiss somebody. He has to like lift his head up because his mouth is at like the bottom of his triangle nose.
So were they mouth kissing?
I mean, what you thought like a kiss on the cheek?
I don't know.
That's a weird thing to say.
It was
like,
a
kissing. I guess unexperienced. You know, I don't know the depths that Jacob knows. I don't check his search history.
Oh shoot!
So they get wiped. They're not going to remember. But Perry apparently had a digital camera with him.
Wow!
And he was snapping pics.
Oh!
And we see his like photo montage.
So it's like the end of The Hangover. Where they don't remember the night. They just look at
this
photos.
Also, I don't know when The Hangover came out, but this inspired that.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the movie, but we get maybe the greatest twists of all.
Yes! Slash!
So in the credits, we see I shouldn't say live action. We see Slash of Guns
N' Roses. As a real
person. But then some cartoon effect comes up from his amp to his guitar, turns him into cartoon Slash, and then he plays, what was the name of the song? Jacob is singing it constantly at the start of the episode.
Kick It Up a Notch.
Kick It Up a Notch with Phineas and Ferb. And that plays over the credits. It plays past the credits. And then that's the end of the movie. Is Phineas and Ferb, the movie, into the second dimension. Across the second dimension. Finishes with Slash from
Across the Second Dimension.
Guns N' Roses.
What a fire ending. Maybe one of the better credit scenes we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, I always want there to be bloops, but most of the bloops we've gotten have been so bad that
this is good.
Better than that.
This is good.
And apparently Slash, his kids are just big fans of the show, and somehow he got connected with Disney.
Was that on the IMDb?
Yeah, as trustworthy as anything on IMDb trivia.
I mean, I believe it.
We read that really detailed fan paragraph.
Yes.
So that was Phineas and Ferb, whatever the title of the movie was. I think probably I found this the least offensive of any of the other cartoons we watched, the movies. I really did not like the Proud Family movie. I was disappointed with Kim Possible, the movie, thinking I would like it, but I really didn't. But I also never watched Kim Possible. And I don't think I really would want to watch Phineas and Ferb, the show, after watching this, but at least had
Some of the
most jokes that I
some
liked.
of the jokes are really good.
And a lot of the song sequences were pretty creative. And
Yeah.
you know what?
Not as bad as it could have been.
But for fans, as we often say with these series movies, for fans of the show, they were busting, if you know what I mean. And it made them feel good.
Oh, no.
Any final thoughts from you, Jacob?
Overall...
Jackie!
Oh, no. It was an okay movie for an animated film.
Didn't capture your attention.
Well, I was just a sleepy boy.
So, I mean, you know what movie you stayed awake for the whole time? The Color of Friendship. So is this The Color of Friendship better than Phineas and Ferb into the second dimension? I would say yes, but you know what? Jacob, he's a little harder to please.
I am hard to please. Easier to sneeze.
With that, I think it won't be a too controversial one to talk about. Never Remember. Could Phineas and Ferb or Agent P stop 9/11? Probably.
Yeah. Yes.
Apparently.
Definitely Agent P. Because, I mean, Phineas and Ferb aren't normally, like, do-gooders.
Well, I'm guessing that in the context of the show, them inventing stuff or whatever,
True.
There's constant them getting involved with Agent P stuff without them really knowing it.
Yeah, that
crossing
is true.
paths with Dr. D and them not realizing what's going on.
So they would have stopped 9/11 without even knowing it. That's
Maybe.
pretty,
I'd
wow.
watch it. You know what? Give it like 50 years, we can have some kind of spoof movie where, not necessarily Phineas and Ferb, but some movie about people stopping 9/11 inadvertently, like Three Stooges save 9/11. I was hoping, I don't know if you've been exposed, but I would think some of the listeners have become aware of like those AI generated images. Like there's bots where you can type in stuff.
Yes, scary,
and I was
very
hoping
scary.
that I could use, I tried typing in Sharpay High School Musical stops 9/11. And it didn't.
Nothing.
It didn't pull
hyper
out.
realistic.
It was pictures of Sharpay.
Oh, okay.
And nothing really about 9/11.
Damn it.
So
did you use commas? I think you have to use commas. There's certain rules.
Maybe I'm not seeding it properly.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to pick up on some of the rules. Also, there's like versions that are like if you download them or like pay to get on or get on a wait list. So I was doing like a free version that maybe wasn't as powerful as some of the others. But that would be a fun thing if we can get more proper images to send out on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
But for now, you just get our fanfic of these characters stopping, or more often than not, if they don't stop 9/11, we somehow make them complicit that they were part of Al Qaeda in the case of the Jonas Brothers or whatever that is. Speaking of our Twitter account, you can follow us at AWN Pod, run by our friend Dustin. Maybe he'll fact check us if he is as big of a ride or die Phineas and Ferb fan. He actually has a tattoo on his belly that's Agent P, but it's like situated in a way where his like belly button looks like his butthole or something.
Oh my God.
Like, well, that's why Dustin keeps his shirt on when he goes to the lazy river at the water park.
Oh no.
You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Podcast app, Stitcher, Spotify, all of that stuff.
YouTube.
Where you can, if it's available, rate, review us, and subscribe to us on there. Subscribe to us on YouTube.
We passed 400 subscribers for the time being.
You don't need to make a big
for the
deal.
time being. 400 celebration.
It won't age poorly at all. But yeah, that's youtube.com/a-whole-new-pod. Like, comment, and subscribe on there. We always like to see those when they come in. Very rarely.
Got a new comment,
but it was pro Jacob, so we don't need to talk about that.
Sure.
And this. I was going to bring up this story a couple of weeks ago or a couple episodes ago, and I'm just going to, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to come off like an asshole now or something.
Oh, no.
But it was after I felt like we had a fun bit.
After we killed the Queen, R.I.P. Queen.
Well, after we had a fun bit with like the weird Twitter porn bots being gaming anime, I was going to talk about that in our modern age, nobody likes getting calls on the phone.
No.
Especially when so many of them are scam likelies or robocalls or whatever.
Correct.
Nobody wants to answer a phone.
No.
Well, I, for a very long time, have been hounded by
You got a call today on our ride over.
And that was this person. So there's somebody who it seems to be based on her area code, from Jacob and I's local area.
Yeah.
Who keeps calling me and
Car's extended warranty.
would leave a message and just be like, "It's me, Mike." And
Oh,
that'd be
weird.
it sounds like an old lady. Oh, it's just me, Mike. And being socially awkward
Have you
and
ever
not wanting to talk
answered?
on the phone.
You've never answered.
Well, the thing is, I think I answered like the first or second time because oftentimes when she calls and I don't answer, she'll call again immediately.
Oh my god.
So I think like the second time she called, I answered the phone and she's like, "Oh, is this Mike?" And I'm like, "Nope, you have the wrong number." Figured that would be like end of story.
And she nenever deleted it out. It's still in there as Mike.
I don't want to like block her or be like text her and be like, "This isn't Mike," because maybe she sounds old. Maybe she's got dementia or something. She's in a nursing home. It's better for her to just think she's calling Mike rather than Mike doesn't want to talk to her for some reason.
Yeah.
But then she would call me regularly, like 3 or 4 times a day.
Pretend like you're Mike.
Well, and something I realized is, as somebody who doesn't like to hear the sound of his voice, which is great for me recording a podcast and having to listen to it so much, I had never set up my voicemail.
Oh.
So I just set up my voicemail then to say, "Hi, this is Lucas Melby. I'll call you back," or whatever.
"Hi, this is Mike."
So then she got that.
Oh.
She doesn't leave voicemails anymore. She doesn't leave, it's just me.
Oh.
But then she would seemingly get the voicemail, and then she called me within a single minute. She called me 4 or 5 times in a row.
Oh my.
And then fast forward a day or two, and she'd do the same thing.
And it's still happening.
She still thinks she has Mike's number.
How long has this been going on for?
Months.
Wow. You get 4 or 5 calls a day?
Not so much anymore, but as we were driving back here, I got a call. And
wow, weird.
That's it. That's the story. It's me being socially awkward and mean, maybe.
But
that reminded me
Pretend you're
of
Mike.
a different time I had somebody, and this one is very funny, where somebody also thought I was somebody else with a number.
Yeah.
And back in 2015, I still have this picture and this message saved. Somebody messaged me, "What day is your wedding again? So I can take off for the schedule at work." And I replied, "Sorry, but I think you have the wrong number." And that was February 3rd, 2015. And then on July 11th, 2015, they send me a picture of 2 people standing at the front of a church getting married.
What the hell?
As if to be like, "Nice try. I know this was you. And I showed up to your wedding." Or maybe it's just like, here's a nice wedding picture to give you some closure or
That's
whatever.
Funny.
That's my little fun bit to fill in a few minutes of the pod to not just leave.
Maybe empty-handed.
On such a short episode.
No Mountain Dew sippy sip tonight.
Nope, no a whole new pop.
No.
I did go out and seek down some bottles of Coca-Cola Dream because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, that was the orange circles.
Or at least our feeling on it.
Yeah.
I visited Sam and his wife, and I brought the small cans of Coca-Cola Dream.
Did you hold the baby?
No, I did not. And she was kind of sleeping, so I had an excuse not to, but also I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I've gotten in trouble with people holding dogs wrong. So
oh my.
I don't want to try to
You just hold it by a leg.
It's just, we're a friend group we're just guys being dudes. We're not used to showing emotions and stuff.
No emotions.
One of us having a kid, he's the first of us to have a kid. It's not right. It just ain't right, y'all. So, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, here's the due date." Or I'm like, "Sam, we are trying to watch professional wrestling right now. We're trying to play some Mario Party. Let's focus on the really important stuff,
really matters.
Not your child." Come on. But it seems to be going well so far.
Good deal.
And with that, I think we'll sign out. Do we always just now, instead of saying "fuck Sam Blazing," we say "fuck the haters"?
Fuck Dustin LaValle.
Decomming until we die.
Ooh.
Or
always
to maybe
be decomming.
Paraphrase a line from Candace in this movie. Now this is what I call decomming.
Wow.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened? As you know, back in 1970, I starred on a series called What Happened? And every time something would go wrong, I would look at the camera and say, "Hey, what happened?" we had a lot of fun with that and a lot of other catchphrases. I got a real red wagon. And I can't do my work. And I believe I was the first one to use the phrase, I don't think so. But it only lasted a year, and that's good because that's how you establish a cult. So I was on stage doing all my shtick, you know, hey, what happened? And I can't do my work. And if someone would heckle me, they'd say, are you going to be on stage all night? I would say, that's right. And that'd crack up the audience.